Tonight we're going to start with tolling. We have new numbers now on what it will likely cost to drive across the Columbia River from Portland to Vancouver and back. It's a big change, and it's coming in about a year and a half. That makes tolling the I-5 bridge our big story tonight. Now, for those of you who hate the idea of tolling, and yes, I did hear that moan through your TV, buckle up. It's coming whether you like it or not. When? Well, it now seems likely that it's going to start as early as the spring of 2026. But wait, you say, wait, the new bridge is not built, construction is not even started. Doesn't matter. The tolling is going to start on the old bridges to help pay for the new ones. So enjoy the next 18 months or so while you can, because then it's toll time. Still don't believe me? These are photos from WSDOT, the Washington Department of Transportation. It shows a recent visit they took to the bridge at the end of August. Why were they there? Well, because they brought along their tolling vendor to take a look at the current bridges to see where their tolling gantries or overhangs would go. They're looking for the best places to put them up. This week, the Washington and Oregon Transportation Commissions voted to advance these 4 tolling scenarios to the final level of detailed traffic and revenue analysis. That means these prices are not final, but they are definitely in the ballpark. When it comes to the final toll prices, the public will be able to give input starting next spring, and the final prices will be voted on by the Oregon and Washington Transportation Commissions next summer. If you didn't get a chance to see that, don't worry, we're going to bring it back. New tolling projects in Oregon are paused until January 2026 due to an order from Governor Kotek, but she specifically carved out the I-5 bridge project to be able to toll before that if needed. Now, thankfully, it appears they will wait to toll the current bridges until the spring of 2026. And before we dive into an explanation on those 4 scenarios we just showed you, let's take a step backward for a second and answer a question we often get from you. How was this tolling project authorized in the first place?
So the I-5 bridge is authorized for tolling by the state legislature of both Oregon and Washington. And I will speak here to the Washington piece. The Washington state legislature authorized tolling for the I-5 bridge replacement project in 2023. And this authorizes tolling on both the existing I-5 bridge as well as the replacement bridge. It also directs that toll revenue must be spent on construction, maintenance, and operations of the facility. So inclusive of any bonds that are sold, of course. It also prohibits tolling on the Washington portion of I-205, as we know parallels I-5 in the Vancouver region to the east.
Yeah, so tolling's been coming for a while. By the way, that no tolling of the Washington side of I-205, that's an interesting wrinkle in all of this. One would imagine that once tolls start on the I-5 bridge, people are just going to jump to 205 to the east. When I sat down with the director of the Oregon Department of Transportation back in March, he told me Oregon does not have plans to toll 205. This week, we asked ODOT if that still is the case, and this morning a spokesperson told us that's correct. Still no plans to toll I-205 on the Oregon side. So I think that bridge is going to be pretty darn busy in 2026. When it comes to Oregon authorizing tolling for the I-5 bridge, the State Transportation Commission will take a final vote in January. Seems like a foregone conclusion that it's going to be approved. But the law giving the state authority to toll the I-5 bridge actually stretches way back to the old project that never happened, the Columbia River crossing.
Our legislature in 2013 provided direction for the Columbia River crossing project that is still operative today. Like Washington, tolls are to be used to fund the project and have to meet the requirements for debt issued and must pay for maintenance and operations of the project. There are also a couple other provisions that the tolls must consider traffic demand management. You will see in the scenarios we bring you that there are variable time of day toll rates that meet that requirement to help us manage demand. And there is a provision also that tolls have to be reduced after paying off construction debt. Does not say how much they have to be reduced by, just they should be reduced at that point. Does not require that they be removed, however.
Did you catch that last part? The law does not say that tolls have to be removed once the construction debt is paid off, just reduced. By how much? It's up to the Transportation Commissions. I'm going to bet the reduction is not very much. And by the way, the projection period that helps craft these tolling scenarios goes all the way out to the year 2060. I kid you not, 2060, decades from now. So once the tolls start, they're not going anywhere, at least for several decades. Okay, now we're going to look at what it would cost you to cross the I-5 bridge once tolling starts. There are 4 possible scenarios. Each is just a little bit different. Let's start with an explanation of number 1.
So scenario 1 has, I think, is the one that's a little bit different than the others in one aspect, and that is the truck toll multipliers. So scenario 1 has higher truck toll multipliers. Trucks, when they pay a multiple of the auto toll, sort of actually bring a larger share of the revenue than their traffic would suggest. And this has tractor trailers paying 4 times the base 2-axle auto toll in this example. And so, but what it allows is for lower general base toll rates for 2-axle autos. So our pre-completion rates here range from $1.55 to $3.20, and our post-completion rates range from $1.55 to $3.65. These rates all in constant $26, so before applying any recurring escalation. And this scenario does look at 2.15% toll escalation per year, which is sort of a conservative measure of the projection for annual general price inflation. It uses a weekend toll. All of these scenarios have weekend tolls. They do vary by whether it's sort of a variability of 2 steps or 3 steps. So sort of a, low, middle, higher, or a lower and higher. This one has 2, and finally, it assumes that the low-income discount program would be implemented when the new bridge opens.
All right, and before we move on, let's pause for a second. Did you hear that term, toll escalation? Another term for that would be automatic increase. They plan to increase the cost year after year. All of the scenarios include that escalation. And when we look at the post-completion toll rates, as in the rates when the bridge construction is finished, well, the numbers that you're going to see today do not include the toll escalation. That will be happening in the years during the construction. So those post-completion numbers are likely to be far lower than what the actual amount is that it's going to be charged. The modeling for these scenarios assumes the new bridge will be open by the year 2033, so about 8 years of construction, with that toll escalation bringing prices up just a little bit each year. All right, let's move on to tolling scenarios 2 and 3.
Scenarios 2 and 3 then apply a bit higher tolls. Scenario 3 has sort of the same toll rate structure, schedule, variability, both pre and post completion, whereas scenario 2 does start with a little bit lower tolls pre-completion and then steps them up post completion. But these 2, as well as the 4th scenario, have lower truck toll multipliers. So we're taking some of the burden away from freight in these by going with more modest truck toll multipliers of 1.5 and 3 here for modeling purposes. But basically the top toll would be 3 times the auto toll, which is consistent with the other facilities currently in operations in Washington State that allow heavy trucks. That the top toll rate that the Washington State Transportation Commission has set there is 3 times that for 6 or more axles on a tractor trailer. The other difference between scenarios 2 and 3 is that the low-income toll program is assumed on scenario 3 to be implemented as soon as practical, whereas on scenario 2, it is assumed to open when the new bridge opens. And that is kind of reflecting the fact that the toll rates are stepping up on scenario 2 and that post-completion when the new bridge opens. And so that's when the proposed benefit for low-income users would jump in.
Okay, so big trucks pay a little bit less in those scenarios, in line with the formula that they pay for other tolls in Washington State now. But taking the burden away from big trucks means auto drivers would be making up the difference. And now let's get to the last scenario.
And then finally, scenario 4 looks at a higher set of toll rates from $2 to $4.70 in pre-completion. Same pattern in post-completion, but subject to the escalation. On this one, because we're starting with higher toll rates, the Bi-State Tolling Subcommittee agreed to maybe have a lower escalation expectation. So instead of 2.15% each year, this one assumes 3% every other year, or kind of every biennium, if you will. And then pairs that with that 50% low-income discount to be implemented as soon as practical.
Interesting, don't you think? And yes, this audio is coming from one of the big bridge meetings. You may be wondering why that last scenario has the higher tolls pre and post completion. That's because that is the only scenario right now that's meant to help the project in case costs go up, which is certainly possible based on what we've seen in recent years. The bridge project's conceptual finance plan says tolling is expected to bring in $1.24 billion, which is what scenarios 1, 2, and 3 account for. But scenario 4 is, quote, aiming a little bit higher, around $1.6 billion. The committee says an updated cost estimate of the project is likely coming next summer, which should give us a better idea on those tolling numbers as well. And by the way, the team is looking at the possibility of 28 different construction contracts across the entire bridge project. So it's going to be spread around. It's not like one company is going to be tasked with doing everything. Here's a look at what's next for these tolling plans. The review of the 4 tolling scenarios will continue until next spring, and then the public input portion will happen in late spring before the final toll rates and policies are voted on and very likely approved by the Washington and Oregon Transportation Commissions. So that is a lot of information, I know, but you can handle that. What's going on in your mind, though, after learning more about the I-5 tolling plans? Too expensive? Going to limit your trips back and forth across the Columbia once they begin, or just the cost of doing business? As one viewer said, it's kind of like having a parking spot for 8 hours. It's going to cost. Let us know, will you? You can email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090.